Hey, how's it going? Before I get started, please look at some signs. Okay, so today I pulled two cards, and the first card I pulled was from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, and it was number 29, Horned Cactus. And it says, whoa, resourcefulness. And if you look there, you can see sort of, I was going to say embedded, so I guess I'll just say it. Embedded in the cactus is like a human face. And also there are horns. I want to focus on the face inside the cactus because it looks like a person encased in the cactus. And also, they do have all these spines sticking off from it. And it's just interesting that I think yesterday I said something about wishing I could be like Beetlejuice when Alec Baldwin's character, I forgot to look up the name of the character, but when Alec Baldwin's character picked him up from the model village that Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis had in their former basement, since they are the dead people living in their house, but now there's living people that have moved in. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of Beetlejuice. I just want to sort of remind you who Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis played. And yeah, I will try to remember to put it in the box. So I have a pen right here, so let me just make a note of that. Baldwin and Davis's names in Beetlejuice. Okay, so anyway, it reminded me of that because I was talking about it in terms of exactly the way Beetlejuice used it, and it was as a form of defense. And so I feel like these God, what do we usually call those? I can't remember the name that I have never called them spines, but the name that I usually call them escapes me. So stickers, that's not the word I use, but you wouldn't know that. So I don't know, let's go with stickers. So it's got all these stickers popping off out of its body outward, as if, to defend. And I'm sure that's exactly why they're there, because plants often have defenses against, whatever other organisms that can harm them. Although I don't know what a cactus predator is other than man trying to bust it open for water and the pears. But it also reminded me of another something to do with a spiny body, you might say. Oh, spines. That's probably the word. And it was somewhere I was reading or had seen a video, and it was Robert Downey Jr., I believe, being quoted, and he was talking about when he had been really strung out and he was just a mess with the drugs, and he had some really embarrassing moments, like going into some house in some neighborhood that was not his at all and going in through a window and like getting in bed with I think getting in bed with somebody's kid. But he ended up in the kid's bedroom, I remember that much, and it was like, I don't think they were white. So they woke up with a high white dude in the bed in the kid's room, and from what I understand, he made himself quite at home. which my mind is telling me that probably meant he like took off clothes and got in bed, like as if he were at home. And he was in really bad shape. I mean, it was not a good time for him. He did prison time, and I think that when he came out of prison, he may have still been struggling. Although I know that he made a lot of headway toward improving his life. Like I think he got off the drugs in there. He could easily have stayed on them. He had money. But he must have met with like the right people in there that sort of guided him away from his worst impulses. And so when he came out, I'm not sure, because they didn't say this in this clip, I guess it was, when this conversation took place. So it may have been before he went into prison, but I know that after he went into prison, Robert Downey Jr.'s life vastly improved. And this is why I think it happened after he was in prison. And I'm going to finally get to what was in the clip. Someone was saying, quoting Robert Downey Jr., I believe, and saying that Mel Gibson saved him at that period in his life when he was so falling apart and such a mess. And he had all of these thorny issues in his life, and they were making a wreck of it. You cannot function if you cannot be sober and sensible. People notice. I mean, maybe not right away, but your work will start to deteriorate, because I think when you're on the drugs, you have a completely altered perception of reality. Like, you think that you're stronger, faster, beautiful, you're more beautiful, and basically everything you're not when you're not high. And so that should tell you something right there. Like, if you're only that way when you're all buzzo, then it's not real. But when you're real messed up and it's a progressive state. Like, you can be addicted and dig yourself out of not too bad of a hole. It's like with heroin and I'm sure cocaine too, because I know people that had got on it in the 80s and still can't get shed of it. But like I said, I think he must have reached a place in prison, and maybe like Providence brought someone, a mentor, a guide, someone to help him hold it together so that he didn't have other foul-ups, drug-related or otherwise, while he was in jail. But I think he's a personable guy, so I think with his fame and that, and also that he was like white, probably helped him in prison, because he just wouldn't have had that hard of a time comparatively, So, what the quote was is that Mel Gibson invited Robert Downey Jr. to come stay with him and like work on his recovery. And one of the things, they talked a lot. So one of the things that, well, this is what was in the clip that was the main thing. But he said that Mel Gibson told him that when it came to his problems, his thorny issues, he needed to hug the cactus. So that's like getting up close and personal with your most uncomfortable and thorny issues. I would think. That's sure what it sounds like. And it's great advice. It just goes to show that behind the thorns, here's this cactus guy. So he's like, for whatever reason, embedded in this cactus. But And Mel Gibson has had some thorny issues himself, substance abuse issues. So, I mean, I guess he was a good counselor, but we don't see people like Downey or Gibson in the press in the best light all the time. In fact, they look for things that don't look good on the subject. They look for you to screw up in some way. They look for something to be able to talk bad about you about if you're famous. I don't know. I don't quite understand that dynamic because they really want you to talk to them, but if they want to make it so that it's unpleasant for the person they're trying to get the content from, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with what I was talking about. So, but the thing is, like, maybe Gibson was the perfect person because they have the same sort of social stature and just as far as like relating to like the rest of the world that's not in the entertainment business. I just think it was also like a synchronistic placement for Downey. So there's some sort of light shining here behind, and I can't tell if it's night or day, to tell you the truth. It may not even be in a dimension where those are a thing. But I will say that, you know what I will say? Every time I hear somebody else say, I will say something, something, I think, oh, will you now? Will you bless us with that? So, and now I'm saying it. So, here is what I have to say, though. Everything's green in this picture. Green is generally a positive color. It's green for go. That is forward. That is momentum. And if you look at the expression on this person's face, they don't look at all upset. In fact, they look kind of pleased. Maybe a little self-satisfied, but I don't know if you've been where cactuses grow. They don't grow in forests. You'll see a couple, but even the few that you see sort of nearby each other are not in a clump. They're kind of spread out. But you don't know what's going on with people, even if they present like a happy looking face like this, and there's really nothing, I don't think, foreboding about this, except for, I mean, like what I intuited from it is not the darkest stuff in the world, all of it, and it certainly lightens up. So I guess I feel like it's a green for go situation, like despite appearances, it's safe to go forward. And I will now read from the guidebook about the number 29 horned cactus. Blooming through resilience, resourcefulness, discovery. Nothing seems to be happening fast enough, or your ideas have dried up. You begin to question your relevance. Oh. Well, okay, forget it. During these periods in life, you might feel like giving up, frustrated and resentful that success will never happen for you. The issue here, however, is a matter of perception. The horned cactus thrives in the barren desertscape, offering you the gift of water when all appears to be dry. If you look at its body, you see the natural thorns. You see the natural thorns that protect it from predators and the elements. What you don't see are the deep roots that extend far into the earth, filling it with a continuous flow of water. This succulent is a symbol of resilience, of resourcefulness, of your needs being met in spite of appearances to the contrary. It's a reminder of the courage and inherent wisdom needed to dig deep below the less than friendly surface that hides a rich underground world. Can you connect to the magical truth and trust? The desert is a mystical place filled with mysterious creatures beautifully adapted to their environments. The horned cactus tells you to take heart. This journey is only temporary and will soon be met with greener pastures. But first you must acknowledge your inner strength and fortitude as you're tested here. Be as the cactus, resilient and resourceful. So, one last thing about that, when the lines of text that are not even the actual substance of the page of the entry about the horned cactus is blooming through resilience, resourcefulness, discovery. It made me think of several years ago. Where was I living then? I might have been up north of California where I am now. Or I might have still been in California but not in LA where I'm from. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is because there was a drought. Well, in the Mojave Desert, it's not exactly lush and rainy all the time, but there had been a drought in California for a while, and it was getting to the point where produce growers, were starting to kind of freak out and get really nervous. And then rain came, and out in the desert, something happened that I guess is a rare occurrence. Rare enough that the news acted like it was a new thing they never heard of. And what it was is that out in the desert, when all of the rainfall came, it caused all of these wildflowers that had been dormant to just all of a sudden spring into life everywhere. There was a beautiful, colorful carpet of wildflowers. And that is sort of in keeping with the rest of what the book had to say about the cactus being a succulent and having deep roots. And I started off right in the beginning saying that we humans go to cacti for water, and probably animals too. So in the desert where everything looks all dried up and hell shitty, the cactus, if you pay attention, really is not like having that issue. It might be different now. It has been many, many years since I've been to the desert, and I wonder if the climate changing has an effect on it in this way. Are the succulents still filled out? Like, it said the roots go far into the earth. I mean, I'm wondering, are they going like really, really far? Because it seems like, well, in the case of California, they've almost completely used up all of the water that was like in underground reservoirs or requieries. Yeah, like a naturally occurring reservoir. I think that's the word. I could be wrong. It happens all the time. But it's serious like that. I don't know that it's something that man can start throwing some switches to change. I think the change has to be faster than gradual and giant. Like modern convenience lovers might have to lump it quite a bit. And I've been eating avocados for years now, thinking this might be the last one you'll get to enjoy. You better like really enjoy it. And we were in the store the other day, my caregiver and I, and she couldn't find a cantaloupe in like 2 different stores. I presume, I know those come from California. They may come from like Eastern Washington or something like that. I know does a lot of produce. Oregon does produce, so it's not just California, but California's big. It's a major contributor to all of that, or it has been. So I don't, I'm just kind of expecting at any time, like, certain balances are going to have to be made, and in order to do so, certain sacrifices are going to have to be made. And that's, I don't know, I'm just saying, I'm not, I don't want to get mad at the time when it happens. Like, enjoy them avocados now is what I'm saying. If you can think about this and kind of project forward to, it may not happen. Like, we may come across some great information that solve a lot of our problems, but I don't think it's going to be that easy to just dial back the climate. That it just may not be a thing. So yeah, love them avocados now while you got them. So the other card I pulled was from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, and it's the crow, or just crow. And well, what I think of first with crows is that they like to collect little trinkets of junk and things, trash and buttons, I guess, something shiny. I guess round things are appealing, which is interesting because it's sitting on some kind of round gumball. And they are known for being messengers. That's like a, I don't know if it's spiritual. I think it's a folklore thing, but it might link. But that's what they're also known for. And they're smart. They're known to be really smart. And so those are the crow characteristics that immediately come to mind. This crow looks very complacent, content. Like, it just has no problems in the world, but also like it's waiting for something, like standing by. I don't know why I think that. I don't know. Let's see what the guidebook has to say. Crow, spiritually strong, creative, watchful. The crow has long been a symbol of magic. A crow personality is drawn to the supernatural and has a gift for seeing the unseen, knowing the unknown. It is said that the crow holds within its mind's eye the three realities, past, present, and future. Crow energy is potent and should only be tapped into when the mind is clear. Those with crow tendencies must balance their lives with a healthy diet, joyful friends, and regular self-study. When in balance, psychic, strong, clear. When out of balance, ungrounded, hypersensitive. To bring into balance, daily meditation practice. So, that's interesting that the crow has a gift for seeing the unseen and knowing the unknown. Well, immediately that makes me think of the cactus's secret water roots. But I don't know if I finished the thought when I was talking about the maybe sort of dried up scrawny cactus that I've never seen, but they might be there now because maybe water is not as plentiful. I don't know, but like I said, I've never seen the dried up ones. But when you're in the desert, or when I was in the desert, it was hot. Hotter than I care for. I don't know. I don't like hot weather. There's no escaping it. But it was hot. It was dry. And at the time, I wasn't as knowledgeable about foraging. So it would have looked, basically, it would have looked like nothing was happening there. Like nothing was much living. Even though I know there's insects that live there, and of course snakes, and then little rodents, so I guess I would have known like all of that stuff. But it's just interesting, like if you see a cactus, you may not necessarily know all about the roots, but what I did notice is that everything else was dried up, but the cactus really wasn't. And I remember from reading that you can, you're not gonna like break into a cactus and it's gonna like start running water like a maple tree and maple syrup, but you can like cut out a piece and chew it and get moisture that way, which you can also do with a potato, which I read in a children's book a long time ago. So I mean, those are not bad things to know if you're like stranded in the desert. But it's a tricky thing about the seeing and not seeing, because theoretically, a crow and a human that has their senses on straight is gonna understand why the succulent is succulent in the dry ass desert. Something has to feed it. And I know too that like if you're in a dry area, if there is stuff growing that's green, like a shrub or whatever, or even a tree, then there's water there somewhere close by, like down, straight down. Um, and the three realities that the crow can hold in its mind's eye, that I don't know why I'm thinking about Mel Gibson today. It's the cactus thing, but when you think about it, if you can be objective, because if you're inclined to, you could find a lot of reasons to dislike Mel Gibson. Listen, he said some stuff and he was portrayed by the media not well, and he did not do himself any favors either, but they didn't do him any favors. And so he was out suffering from addiction issues, and his behavior was showing it, but he was also like really wasted. It's a famous incident where he got pulled over, but there's other ones where he'll just be like sort of normal talking to someone, and then like the worms start eating his brain and he goes all haywire. But when you see how productive he is with the movies and that, like here he's just a terror to be on set with, but the finished products are pretty good. Like, did you ever see the one with the natives in South America? I want to say Apocalypta. I don't think that's right, but anyway, he has that side of him. Like he can be in the moment and be present and function well and get along when he needs to. In the past, he has not done so great. Just sort of like what I was talking about, like being caught out in public. Like if he was public and people just left him the hell alone, probably the stuff that happened with him wouldn't, be going on. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world with a TMZ tip line, so they get caught out a lot. And then, as far as the future, he could help Robert Downey see out of the hole he sort of might have felt he was in the present, or the struggle he was dealing with. He obviously helped him be able to visualize the future. And I mean, he did so well going from Chaplin forward after all of the scandalous trouble that he was in. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad that he wasn't discarded by the system and by society and everything like that, and was able to recover. Partly because he just had like a hard life and he'd been through a lot and he deserved it, but also because he worked hard at his profession and he still does. So I think it was a win-win for him. Like the experience, I'm sure, helps him and gives him enlightenment in a lot of different ways. And so I didn't mean to like make Mel Gibson into the Crow, but it just sort of occurred to me those things. What do those, either of those, any of those have to do with what's going on in the world today? Well, kind of something, a little something from both. There, I was watching a lot of, well, you know, on the weekend there's always news shows, but I was watching a couple this weekend, and there's a lot of Donald Trump indictment talk out there, and see, that's a lot of flim-flammery right there, what's going on with him. He's constantly out in the public trying to change the narrative about him in the media. He's telling people that they're coming after him, but those other people that follow him are in the way. No, they're not. They can just be pushed aside and go directly to you because you committed crimes. And I know Rudy Giuliani has made this remark a number of times, but they're coming after him for stuff in the past. And yes, and you know how they do that if there's a linkage. That's why it's valid. That's why they can do it. That's why they can bring charges that way. Because the man is a lifetime criminal. Yeah, I don't care if people don't. I don't want to believe it. Don't believe it. You weren't there. This is not deep fake. This is before this stuff. This was like from the mid 70s on. That, you know, I've been aware of this man and his chicanery. So that's hidden stuff coming to light for sure. More of that swamp being drained. And he keeps finding himself right in the bottom of it. I have so many feelings about the matter, but I've spoken long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. And I had to run in here and do this because every time I'm about to have to do, or not have to do, like, oh, it's a chore, but just like I know I want to do it once a day, and I tend to do it at the end of the day so I can see what the heck the day is about. Because normally I'll pull the cards pretty early, like not long after I get up, and then my day is long. It may start at like 3 o'clock in the morning and at 2 in the morning. So with naps in between, but that's still a long day. So anyway, got it done. Thank you and good night. There's other secrets out there. We can talk about that another time, though. Another time. Man, I can just hear how bad I'm slurring. Slurring. I might have to start using the glue. Ugh. Okay, thank you and good night.